Good evening, everyone. My name is Yap Chin, and I will be your host for tonight. On behalf of the JPO family, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone tuning in for tonight's broadcast. We hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe indoors. A friendly reminder to maintain good hygiene at all times and maintain social distancing when heading out. As we'd like to continue improving your experience with us, please help us achieve this by completing the poll that will be published during the broadcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A section down below. To anyone who is interested in sharing tonight's broadcast, a live feed will be shared on the JPO Facebook page, and a recording of the webinar will also be uploaded on the page. Tonight's seminar features Simon Fischer, with his topic being expression and technique from the standpoint of a violin pedagogue. As our JPL family attendees are mostly students ranging from primary school to college, their parents and their teachers, the sharing of knowledge and advice you have for all of us is invaluable and greatly appreciated. The JPL is very honored to have Simon Fischer join in as our guest for tonight. Simon Fischer is recognized as one of the preeminent musicians of our time, enjoying a distinguished and wide-ranging career as a performer, educator, and recording artist. He is a professor at the Guildhall School of Music. He has also held positions at 3 specialist music schools, the Yehudi Menuhin, Wells Cathedral, and Purcell. For 15 years, he was also a visiting professor at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music. Fischer's published works like Basics and Practice, Scales, and The Violin Lesson, that was published by Edition Peters, greatly influences the teaching of the violin. Having written for the Strat magazine from 1991 to 2014, his monthly articles attracted a worldwide following. He is also frequently invited abroad to give masterclasses, workshops, and recitals. Now let us welcome Simon Fischer. Hello, Mr. Fischer.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
We're very honored to have you too.
It's a great honor to be asked.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yes, okay. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about the video that we watched at the beginning of the broadcast?
Well, this was one of, I think, 6 pieces I recorded for Edition Peters. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. They have published these pieces, and they very kindly arranged for these recordings. Actually, it was really difficult because most of the pieces, all of the pieces were basically done in one take. We did the whole 6 pieces in 6 hours in one day, just one after another. So it was very, very difficult, and they're pretty close to live performance. I have to be honest, I don't understand why this is, but sometimes I hear those recordings and I hear everything that is right with them, and I'm very proud of them, and I like the playing very much. Other times I listen and all I can hear is what is wrong with them, and I don't like them. Very strange. It's almost the time of the day thing. If I listen at 2 o'clock in the morning, they can seem very, very in tune. And if I listen at 11 o'clock in the morning, they can seem very out of tune. I don't understand. But anyway, we don't care about recordings because they're something in the past. And the only thing we're interested in is the present and the future. So we just need to get better.
I see. Wow. Okay. Now, would you like to share with us how you came about writing all those violin books, like Basics, Practices, Scales, like etc., and how long did it took you to finish the first one, or like the other books too?
Well, I always remember about 15 years ago, a friend of mine, cellist, he showed me he had written all his favorite exercises and out and some text to give to his students. And he showed it to me and asked if I would look through it and tell him what I thought. So I was very, very nice. I took his draft home and I looked through it very carefully and I marked in red ink corrections on every page. I proofread it for him and I marked it in red ink. So then when I next saw him, I gave it back to him and I said, so he said, oh, well, thank you. Once I've got these corrections done, then I'll send it off to a publisher. And I said, you are kidding. You mean after you've done this set of corrections, you will work on it more and there'll be more corrections on every page. And then you'll work on it more and there'll be more corrections to make on every page. And he said, oh, no, I can't do that. No, I'll just get this done and I'll send it off. And that's what he did. And in fact, I told a little white lie. He wasn't a cellist, but I'm not telling you the instrument so that you can't possibly know who I'm talking about. But in my case, what I did was when I studied with Dorothy DeLay in America, Miss DeLay had what she called her basics. That's where it started. But Miss DeLay, I mean, I have a violin here. There was the hit release exercise. What you're meant to do was cover all the main technique in about 40 minutes. So, and the thing is, if I play, it doesn't work properly on Zoom, but there was the tapping exercise you did. You did that with each finger. Only that. There was the trill exercise where you went. And then. Etc. up to about 8, and you did that with each finger. And there was a vibrato exercise for the where you released to the harmonic, where you went.
Yeah. Yes, I heard of this before. Yes.
What else was there? There was hit release. For the minimum finger pressure. And that was it. So then she would say, so for shifting, you can do some Sefcik or some Flesh or some Dunis. And for strokes, you should do a couple of minutes of Détaché, a couple of minutes of Martelet, etc. And you can use Kreutzer number 2. Or she did for Martelet, it was that Kreutzer study, and that was it. So the thing is that what really gets me, by the way, just while I'm here and can say it, is that when people see my basics book, and when they see the practice book and the violin lesson book and scales, they always think that Dorothy DeLay taught all of this stuff. And I wrote it down. And it's not true. She taught, it is not true. She taught this much of what is in those books. And it honestly, it really sometimes upsets me that whatever I do, apparently I learned it from Dorothy DeLay. No, I did not. And she was very, very, very strict about not teaching too much. I mean, I had to beg her for information. She did not teach the detail. She only taught headlines and philosophy. And there was no detail at all. That was left to other people to do. She had her assistants. If somebody wasn't very musical, she'd send them to Bobby Mann, the leader of the Juilliard Quartet. You know, there was always somebody to because she was no great violinist, and she knew that. And she said to me that she used to, when she was a student, she used to wrap her violin up and close the lid and go off and watch the movie reel over and over again until it was too late to practice. She said to me she ran a mile from the problems of playing the violin. And she knew she wasn't a great musician either. She was a great mentor. But it's different. So no, all this stuff has come partly from me being like a butterfly collector. I just go around, just anything that is helpful, I want it. And I've also had some original ideas that I have to say I'm very proud of. I had a colleague, Emanuel Hurwitz, in London, who sadly, he died about 10 years ago. He was always saying to me, in a field as old as violin playing, you cannot have original ideas. And he said that to me so many times. He said, all you can do is repeat in the language of the present the findings of the past. And it's not true. I have had original ideas, very original and very helpful. And I wrote these books. No, Dorothy DeLay didn't write them. Anyway, those were her basics. And the good thing about her basics was that you could cover the whole of violin playing in about 40 minutes. So then I came home to London, and I already had certain exercises that were my favorites from before, and certain exercises that I made up and as a student, and I always practiced them. I remember I always used to practice the shifting where I go, missed. Then etc. Every finger to every finger. So, I mean, that's in the basics book. I used to practice that as a student. Of course, it's just obvious. It's just a number pattern, you know. So anyway, there were various exercises that I knew. And then there were these hit release and tapping and the vibrato exercise that I'd got from Mr. Lay. And I spent the first couple of years of teaching where every lesson I forgot to mention the most important thing from Dorothy DeLay, the sound exercises.
Yes.
She showed me the first of the exercises. I've added to them. But again, it's just obvious. It's no great genius to play around with the sound points. But again, you see, these weren't her exercises. The very first Strad article I wrote, I did the 5 sound points exercise where you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you start, you just do this, and then sound point 4, and 3, and 2. I'm doing it so quickly and badly. And 1. So anyway, that exercise takes me about 2 hours to teach, by the way. So I just showed it to you in a flash. That exercise. That's a 2-hour lesson, doing that exercise. Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. But anyway, actually, that's not true. The 2 hours is about 3 or 4 of these exercises, actually, to be truthful. Anyway, so I telephoned Dorothy DeLay to say I was writing the series in the Strad and I was going to start with her tone exercise. And she said, oh, it's not mine. She said, I learnt it from Galamian. And Galamian learnt it from Capet. She said, it's yours to take. Do what you like with it. Of course. And since then, I've found that all the best players and best teachers practice these things. So, of course, it wasn't delay. But anyhow, that was a big thing to add to my collection of exercises. So, as I'm saying, when I was first teaching, every lesson, child comes in, it was age 10 to 18 at that time, comes into the room, I show them like speed exercise, pressure exercise, the exercise I just showed you, and I have to write it down in their notebook. Everything I wrote down in their notebook. And then they go away, next pupil, same exercise, write it down in the notebook. So after a year of this, I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm writing the same things all the time. Why don't I just type it out and make a little book, and I can just hand it to the student. And in fact, I've got one right here. This is what I made. This was my first basics book.
I see.
No, it wasn't. No, this is the second one. I'll come to this in a minute. No, I don't know where the first one is. Anyway, I typed it out with a typewriter, manual typewriter, no computer, no manual typewriter. And then and then I wrote the music examples on manuscript by hand. And then you stuck them in, you left a space between the typing. Then you stick it in, and then photocopy, and then where the music was, there's a black line around each bit of the manuscript. So then Tipex, white Tipex, color over the line, then photocopy again, and now you have text, music, text. So the first basics book was 20 pages of one side of the page. So I used that for about 5 years. I used to give it out to all my students. I would have 20 copies made at a time. And then I bought my first word processor. And I thought, wow, why don't I make a nice word processed version of the basics book? It'll only take me a week. So I worked on it. It took me 4 months, because in the previous 5 years, I'd been adding, I had more favorite exercises, anything that works, anything that gets through instantly. I can't be bothered with things where you have to practice for 3 months to get a result. I want the result right now. So this is the test. I want a result within 10 or 20 seconds. I want to feel some improvement, some difference. Otherwise, I'm not interested. So I'd added to my collection, and I wanted to include these in the basics book. So after, it was 3 or 4 months of basically non-stop work all day, every day, I produced this. So this is basics. I can't.
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
And nice. That's the index. Then again, you can see the music examples have been written by hand and stuck in, as I've described. And this book came to 50 pages, double side.
Ah.
So nice practice record at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I used that for another few years, and I kept adding and I kept improving, because the thing is to be able to road test. And I was road testing with my students, and all the teaching was all basics, and I would find things to improve and change this word, change that word, new exercise, change the exercise according to working with the students on these exercises. So then I produced 4 or 5 editions of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought my first proper desktop computer.
Oh.
Now this was possible. And I thought, hey, why don't I make a really nice sort of publishable version of the basics book and maybe even get it published? It'll only take a week or a month. Well, it took 3 or 4 years, and it went from this to 250 exercises, 300 exercises, and 220 pages. And that version, you see, the thing is, what's amazing for me personally is that for some reason it was left to me to be the first person in the history of the world to write a big violin technique book using computer music processing and a laser printer. Nobody before me could do it because the technology didn't exist. The latest big violin book, of course, was the Galamian in 1962. Nobody had a computer then.
Yeah.
So I was the first person in history who could actually print out a fully functioning book with, and I can show you. Oh, well, I can't lay hands on the basics now. Here's a practice version. This is my own copy.
Yes.
And I printed out the whole thing. And it's the same with basics. I'm just hurrying because of time. I printed out, so to be able to, using Finale, to print the music, to work the text. When Carl Flesch wrote The Art of Violin Playing, he had to do it with a pen and pencil on paper. I mean, how did he do it? With word processing, of course, you can move everything around and you can decide, oh, this shouldn't be here, it should be there, and you you make all these corrections. So, and then to be able to print it out, gosh, where have you found these photos? My God. To be able to print it out on a laser printer and to be able to give it to your students and work with them on those exercises and make so many changes and corrections. As I say, red inking the book, just covering every page with red ink. And then guess what? To be able to enter all of that again into the computer and then print out a new book, again with all the corrections, and you use that for a couple of years with all of your students, and you cover every page with red ink. And then after 10 years of this, you give it to your publisher. That was the process. Well, it was from beginning to end, it was 14 years. So you can see why when my colleague showed me his first draft, I said to him, well, it'll be the first of 20 drafts. And he said, oh, no. That I can't understand that, sorry. So then practice took 4 years. The violin lesson took 5 years. Scales 3 years, 4 years maybe. the warming up book that you just saw, there's my dad. You're showing my dad. Where are you getting all these pictures from? I used to play concerts with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's still around. He's still teaching and not performing now. Well, none of us are performing now.
Mm.
Anyway, I hope I haven't given you too long an answer to that question.
But it's a great tip. Okay, anyways, move on to the next one. Will be,
Okay.
in your opinion, how does technique and expression relate to one another? Would you say it is only to do with the technique, or expression also plays a part?
Well, this is a big favorite subject of mine because, you know, you hear about people who, there's a very good student of mine there, but she became a doctor.
Yeah.
You hear of people who only teach technique, and you hear of people who refuse to teach technique, they only teach music.
Mm-hmm.
And everything. And I just cannot understand this because it's like the front and back of a coin. You can't have a front without a back. You can't have the technique without the music. You can't have the music without the technique. But it's not only that. There's a closer connection between technique and music than that. And that's why it's one of my favorite subjects. I'll tell you, in the beginning, I thought, if I just write, I used to write this.
Yeah.
On all my students' music or notebooks. And I'd write, this. And in fact, you know, I wish I'd remembered, because I knew you were going to ask me this question. I have this written.
Oh. Yes, I see it.
Pitch, sound, rhythm, style, and belief. I have that written on the front cover of my Mozart D major violin concerto because it was during a lesson with Dorothy DeLay, and I wrote that out to show her, and I just wrote it in pencil on the front page of the Mozart. And she, because of this, told me about Stanislavski, the great theatre director and teacher, father of modern acting, because that's what belief is.
Mm-hmm.
It's method acting, when you become the part you're playing. If I play Romeo, I mustn't remain Simon Fischer saying Romeo's lines. I must become Romeo if I want to be a great actor, you see. And if you must become the music that you play, and not so when the music is sad, you are sad. When the music is happy, you are happy. This is very 18th century, in fact. So anyway, the point is this five-pointed star.
Mm-hmm.
The pitch, so all we have is pitch, sound, and rhythm. There is nothing else except the ease with which you play. If you play the piano, the first question is, which key do you want to press?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want this note. Okay, so now the next question is sound. How hard do I hit the key? So, because how hard do I want the hammer to hit the string?
Mm-hmm.
So louder or softer? So the first question is which key, and then how strongly to push it. And then the third question is when. When do you want the hammer to hit the string? And then the fourth thing is how easily can I make the key go down to make the hammer hit the string.
Mm.
So on the violin, the first thing is, you know, on the piano, all the notes are there already for you, all the strings.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite question is, why is a grand piano shaped like a grand piano? Why is a harp shaped like a harp? And you wouldn't believe the number of students who can't answer that question. But never mind. Obviously, it's because the strings get shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to play any note, it's there. You can play it. So easy. On this crazy idea of an instrument, we have only 4 strings and we have to make all the different string lengths.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very hard. So first question, which length of string, in other words, pitch, which pitch do we want? But we can't hear it yet. So the next question is the sound and all the questions of what sound we want. And then the third question is when? When do we make the bow make the sound? And then the fourth thing is how easily can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing else. If you want to criticize somebody's playing or evaluate their playing or your own playing, there's nothing else you can talk about except the intonation or the sound or the rhythm, or the vibrato counts as sound. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I used to think there's pitch, sound, rhythm, and then you have to play with the right style. Mm-hmm. So in Tchaikovsky, you're going to sustain more than you're going to sustain in Mozart, for instance, yeah. And you use a thicker vibrato for whatever, you know. And then, so I used to say to people that if you can play every note in tune, and if you can make a good sound on every note, and if you can play with good in-time musical rhythm, and if you can become, do that all, if you can play in the style of the composer, and if you can become one with the music, so when it is happy, you are happy, when it's sad, you're sad, mm-hmm. then you will be great. Then I realized after about 10 or 15 years, and I have to give credit, talking to a friend who is very, very, very clever, very, very clever man. And he made me understand that what I was saying was absolutely wrong.
What?
It's something else.
What was it?
It's so simple. Oh, I've done this wrong. Wait. Don't go away. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's this, which is pitch, sound,
oh.
Ease means relaxation.
Yes.
It is only pitch, sound, rhythm, and ease. Now, here's the great part. Here's the part that makes this what I'm saying. You know, I'm just leading up to. Here it comes. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm saying that musical expression, and technique are one and the same thing. Mm-hmm. One thing. Because, okay, so musical expression comes from the sound. Mm-hmm. It comes from the rhythm. Mm-hmm. It comes from the pitch. Mm-hmm. Style comes from the sound. Mm-hmm. Comes from the pitch. Comes from the rhythm. Comes from the pitch. And becoming one with the music is the music is in the sound, the music is in the rhythm, the music is the pitch. So it's just about listening and identifying with it. But let me explain more clearly yet. So supposing I'm playing and I want to make it more expressive.
Yeah.
So I'll make it more expressive with the sound. So let's say. Now, the point is that what the bow does to the string and sound are clearly one thing. I mean, you can't bow like that and get that sound out of it, or the sound and what the hair of the string is doing, the hair of the bow is doing to the string is one thing. How can you say those are two different things? This is the sound of the feeling of the bow, and this is what that sound feels like. You know, it's like if I do this. Now, if I want to make the same sound, I must make the same feeling. And I can do any number of times because the feeling of the hair on the string and the sound are one thing. Okay, but wait a minute, the sound and musical expression is one thing. That's one thing. How can you say that's two things? You have one sound but some other expression from it. No, the sound and the expression are one thing. I want to change the expression, I change the sound. Or I change. So if what the bow does to the string and sound is one thing, and if sound and musical expression is one thing, then the bow on the string and musical expression are one thing.
Yeah.
Now, what about intonation? I mean, you know, if you play Bruch, you play like, you don't play.
Yeah.
You have a low minor third, but that one I play, the sharp one, it's not out of tune. That will be in tune with this. Yeah. Horrible. So the intonation and the musical expression are one thing. Or if I play Tchaikovsky, if I play horrible.
I see.
The B flat must be low. So here's the thing. Where I put the finger on the string and intonation is one thing. I mean, unfortunately, I can't just put my fingers down anywhere and it comes out in tune. Unfortunately not. That would be really nice. No, actually it wouldn't, but never mind. Where I put the finger on the string and the pitch are one thing. But we're saying that the pitch and musical expression is one thing. But that means then that where I put my finger on the string and musical expression is one thing. In other words, the music is here.
Yeah.
Not in some fantastic sort of other world here. So that, you know, I play rubbish in the bow and I play rubbish in the left hand, but somehow there's music. No, there isn't. 10 out of 10 for effort, 0 out of 10 for achievement. You know, the music is in the finger. The music is here in the bow. What about rhythm? What about rhythm? If I play it should really be the little notes belong to the next long note. So it's a feeling. Wait. Or I can play.
Yeah.
I'm like. Or I can play. I'm just making it up. I'm just trying to play stupidly one way and then stupidly the other way. But what I'm saying is the rhythm and musical expression are one thing. But when you move the bow, or when I move the finger, and rhythm are one thing. I mean, how can I move the fingers unrhythmically, but I get perfect rhythm? Or if I move the bow unrhythmically, how can I get? The rhythm is in the bow. The rhythm is in the fingers. Rhythm and musical expression are one thing. Therefore, musical expression is in when the fingers move. Musical expression is in when the bow moves. So, and the same with the style. The style comes from the type of vibrato. The style is here. Or you play you don't play the music is in the vibrato. Vibrato and musical expression are one thing. I played not very expressively. And I think, I want to make it more expressive. Well, the music is here in the vibrato. So you can see why I'm saying there's vibrato, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clock and distracting myself. And I've just seen comments here in the chat. I hadn't even seen them. In Australia? What's Australia got to do with anything? I can go over time a bit, I'm being told. Great, because I'm going on too much. Anyway, I told you there wouldn't be time. But you can see why I'm saying that music and musical expression and technique are two sides of the same coin. And the beauty is the unification. And look, this is what I like to say, that this thing is called a music. This is the whole point. Here's the whole point. This thing is called a musical instrument. That means it's an instrument of music. The music comes out of here. It's not in here. Well, it is in there first, but we're like painters, and nobody can. We have a picture in our head. Nobody can see it unless they're telepathic. So we have to put the picture on the canvas, and then people can see the picture that was in our head. And we have the music in our mind, but nobody can hear it. So we need an instrument through which the music can come. There's a very interesting man called Herbert Wone, actually, an English violinist and teacher who wrote a couple of very interesting thought-provoking books on violin playing. One's called, if I remember rightly, The Simplicity of Playing the Violin. And there's another one as well. But it was from him that I learned that about what an instrument means. Frankly, I'm not whatever your faith or religion is, let's not think about that. But what he talked about was, for instance, in Christianity, you have Jesus. And he said that Jesus was God's instrument on earth, because God can't speak directly to man. He needs to speak through an instrument of speaking, which was this Jesus guy.
Yeah.
And if you are digging a hole in the ground, you need an instrument of digging, which is called a spade. So you have the picture in your mind of the hole that has been dug in the end. And here you are needing to have this hole dug. Well, how do you do it? You need an instrument of digging. There's something between you and it. And if you're a surgeon in the hospital doing an operation, you need surgical instruments like a scalpel to cut people open with, which is very pleasant. But these are called instruments. It's very interesting. An instrument is the point between the idea and the deed. So we have the music in our head. We want the music in the ears of the listener. How do we get it from our head to the ears of the listener? You need an instrument of music, and that's what we have. And it is out of the instrument of music that the music comes. And it's through what the bow does on the string that the music comes. It's when the fingers lift and fall. It's exactly the vibrato movement. Here is the music, here. And it creates incredible concentration when you're aware of that, because you're playing the music. It's not in your head and you're some disorganized bow, disorganized fingers, but you're very musical and you're trying very hard. I mean, this is impossible. You have to learn the technique of playing the instrument of music in order to make expressive music. Now shall I shut up and you can ask me something else, or we run out of time?
I think we will just move on to the Q&A section. Yes. Okay, so this is from March Cheka. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. So with the situation the world is in, how can students effectively project their sound through online lessons? What exercise can you recommend?
Oh, no. This question is impossible. This question has to be given to the software designers of Zoom. I have to teach, of course, on Zoom at the moment. And I spend all my time saying to the students, look, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're doing. I can hear your rhythm, I can hear your intonation, and I can see you. But, everything is about color. And the thing about the Zoom is the software is the equalization, which makes the soft playing louder and the loud playing softer. So it makes it all the same. I mean, I recently had a student playing the last movement of the Mendelssohn concerto, and it sounded like she was playing with this sound, like kicking every note. But she assured me she was playing delicately. I mean, so it's impossible. I can't help you. I can't help you about Zoom. Now, but what was the question? What was that question again? What did she ask?
She asked, with the situation,
Yes.
how can students effectively project their sound through online lessons, and what exercise can you recommend?
Sorry, I just don't know, because we are at the mercy of technology.
Okay.
Someone showed me some technology that made it really amazing, and she demonstrated it to me online. I can't remember what it's called now, and I was so delighted. And it was like, because here's a tip. My students film themselves and send me that video, and I then give them a lesson online about what I've seen on the video, because the quality of the video is 100 times better than if they play live. There's a tip. But what was I going to say? I was going to say something. I can't think now. Is there?
Okay, next question
Yeah.
from Jeffrey Solaris. So have you heard the 24 practice days circle of fifth system by a Czech or Hungarian author named Augustin Kolar? My teacher 30 years ago brought a copy to the Philippines, and I have been using it to teach to my student, but I have no other information about this author. Would love to know.
I have no idea, but it sounds very interesting. Of course, if you look at the Road Caprices, they go in the circle of fifths. The first is C major, the next is A minor, and so on. It ends in D minor, which is very nice. But no, I don't know that. That sounds really nice, really interesting.
Okay. Next question, also from the same person. By the way, I have basic practice and the violin lesson. Thank you for all the books. It's so useful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is from Erlin Alexander. So do you practice your musicianship until it becomes muscle memory, or do you practice until you remember the emotion through the music?
Oh, I don't much like, I mean, one thing I don't like is practicing, which I think many students do. They don't practice performing enough. They don't practice the actual real thing. It's like, well, you practice, and then you go on stage and now you play. It shouldn't be like that. It should be now you play, very much earlier on in the process. But what really fired me up was reading the Mozart violin school. And in Leopold Mozart, published in 1956, and there's a short dictionary of Italian terms in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And for mesto, M-E-S-T-O, which means sad in Italian, mesto, very nice. Pesto is something you put on your pasta.
Yeah.
I love pesto, but this is mesto, which means sad, but he doesn't say it means sad. He says this term is to remind the player to put themselves in a mood of sadness, thereby to communicate the piece. So it isn't that you place, you feel sad. Then I was reading CPE Bach and big treatise this thick on keyboard playing. And there's a section in there on performance. And he says that when the music languishes and becomes sad, the performer must languish and become sad. And similarly, he says, in lively, joyous passages, the performer must become lively and joyous inside in order to communicate. And when I was a student in London, there's a very, very great, truly great violinist who was studying with my teacher. And her name, she was a Bulgarian called Vanya Milanova, a truly great talent. And the fact that you haven't heard of her is proof that in the music business, the people you've heard of aren't necessarily the best. So anyway, enormous talent. You could hear her. She's got all 24 Paganini Caprices that she recorded in the 1980s on YouTube. And the thing is, you can find the odd little slip if you like, the odd little tiny little mistake, but then you find out she recorded all 24 Caprices in 6 hours, one take each one. I mean, you listen to some of the major recordings, they've got thousands of edits.
Yeah.
and they're still out of tune. Vanya did all 24 in 6 hours. I mean, Ruggiero Ricci recorded all 24. He did first 12 in the morning, then he went out and had lunch, then he came back and recorded the second 12 in the afternoon, and then he went home. But if you listen to that recording, it is, excuse me, it is shocking.
Yeah.
It is scratched and out of tune all the way through. But Vanya did it. And they're not scratched and out of tune all the way through. Anyway, I when I was a young man, I wanted to know, I was 20, 21. I wanted to know, what is it like to be able to play like Vanya? What is it like to be Vanya? So I asked her, what do you think about when you play the violin? And she said, she couldn't speak much English, but she said, when the music is happy, I am happy. When music is sad, I am sad. And this absolutely blew my mind. So anyway, years and years later, I'd now discovered Leopold Mozart and C.P. Bach. So I phoned up Dorothy DeLay. I was always phoning her up and having a chat. Every few months we'd speak until a few months before she died. I stayed in contact with her for all those years. And I rang her up and I said, I read the C.P. Bach to her about languishing and growing sad. And I read the Leopold Mozart to her about the mesto, meaning put yourself in the mood of sadness. And I told her about Vanya. And I said, what do you think? What do you think? Isn't it great? What do you think? And she said, well, of course it's fantastic. She said, but all of that is in 18th century language. She was so clever, Dorothy DeLay. So clever. She just instantly said, yes, but everything you've said there, it's in 18th century language. In 20th century language, she said, we say of a player that he or she plays with inspiration. This is what it means to be inspired, you see. Now, I used to teach at a music school. I'm not going to tell you the name. And there was a Russian violin teacher there. And I'm not going to tell you her name.
Okay.
But she was a fantastic teacher. I mean, give her an 8-year-old with good hands and pushy parents. And by the age of 12, that child will be playing Paganini and Wieniawski and Sarasate absolutely beautifully, with beautiful bow arm, beautiful hands, beautiful intonation, beautiful vibrato. I watched it for years and years. But, being Russian, she was very tough. And when I first heard some of the things she would say to her students, I was shocked. For example, somebody told me that she would frequently say to a student, why you play like Dead Man? You play like Dead Man. Why you play like Dead Man? And I was so shocked. I thought, how can you say this to somebody? Child, teenager. But after a few years, I was watching a student of mine play, and he was going like this. And I suddenly realized what she meant. Because if you're a live man, it's all...
Yeah.
And if you're dead man, it's... So I refuse to say to my students, you play like Dead Man. But what I do is I tell them that if they studied with this person that I'm not naming, she would tell them that. But I explain it's all about, you see, Dorothy DeLay was very clever, and she taught me all about how to play with energy. And it's all about what gives more energy and what gives less energy. And in fact, what that Russian teacher was meaning was that her students not playing with enough energy. But this is describable. You know, if I play Martelly with this bow speed, it doesn't have much energy. So how to increase the energy? Move the bow faster. I want still more energy. Move faster. Etc. If I do slow vibrato, low energy. So high energy. So it's all, you know, faster tempo, more energy, more accented, more energy, deeper in the string, nearer the bridge, more percussive fingers, faster vibrato, narrower vibrato, sharper sharps, flatter flats. It's not just mental. Again, you see, it's here in the instrument. It's not an attitude of mind. I must play with more energy. I mean, what does that even mean? You see. And with Dorothy DeLay, you know, if you said to her, this phrase should break your heart, she'd say, does that mean nearer the bridge or further from the bridge? Okay.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm sitting back to give you a chance to say something.
I don't know.
No?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the clock here. It's 2:08. Oh, look, there's a question.
Yeah.
How to use your books to ensure the student can have progress consistently. The one thing I have to say about my books is that the sheer quantity of them can be a bit disturbing, because it's like, well, I've already done basics, now I've got to do practice. Oh my gosh, there's the scales. And there's the warming up book. Oh, and there's the tone book. Which do I use? How much do I use? It's very difficult to be organized. And I think the way to do it is to think again. Well, one thing is to only draw from these things what you need for your current repertoire. So it's a matter of researching how to play faster, how to play more in tune, how to play spiccato or whatever you need. Another thing is, well, I mentioned at the beginning of this session, Emanuel Hurwitz, who was the man who was forever telling me that that nobody can come up with anything original in a field as old as violin playing. And I'm telling you I have, but that's another story. He saw various drafts of the basics book for over 6 or 7 years. I kept showing him a new printout, and we'd discuss exercises and I'd show him things. And then one day I went round to his house with the published version, the actual printed copy, printed by Edition Peters, to give to him as a present. And he took the book from me and he turned it over in his hands and he said, "Very good, Simon, very good. But how can you call it basics?" I mean, he'd known the title for the last 7 or 8 years. I don't know why he waited for me to have it printed before he questioned the title. But anyway, so he looks at it and he says, how can you call it basics? Because he said, the things that truly matter in violin playing are actually very few. How can you have a book this thick. And it's all basics. Good question. Very good question. But all I could say was, well, I've already cut 100 pages from it. I mean, I've made it as small as I made it as small as I could. But what am I saying here in answer to this question? How to ensure that student can have progress consistently? Well, it all comes back to pitch, sound, and rhythm. I mean, I haven't got specific exercises for rhythm, but you know, the endless quest in every practice of playing more in tune, faster, with more freedom, more ease. So practice we divide into 4 parts. There's exercises, and then we do scales, and then we do etudes, and then we do repertoire. So in the exercises part, what you're most interested in, for me, it's that I just want to play in tune. You just gotta play in tune. I don't know if I do play in tune, but whether I do or don't isn't the point. The point is that everything must be about good intonation. So I just want to do anything that will help me. Any note relationship exercises or just patterns, or my favorite thing, which is like, whoa, I'm doing very well though. I mean, this is an original idea, by the way. This is an original idea, and in my scale book, you've got this. Now 4 should be the same though. Two, 1. And so on. That is the best way to train intonation, and you will not find anyone shows it to you. There's no masterclass in the world you can go to where somebody will show you that. There is no book. You can't find it in Galamian or Flesch or anyone, but you do find it in my scale book. So there's an original idea. But anyhow, the point is, in that exercise part, you're thinking intonation. What can I do to play more in tune? And sound. I mean, I've just spent a lifetime of being addicted to the sound exercises. You know, just doing and doing. I could do it here. I could do. Or here. I mean, I'm making it look easy, but that takes real control. Or the pressure exercise. No. Forte, piano, forte, piano, forte, forte, forte. 6, 8, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All this kind of work. So, you know, it's like pitch, sound. Personally, I used to like practicing shifting because I'd think, you know, I can practice my piece or my etudes, but then I'm going to have to shift. So if I do loads of good shifting exercises now first, then everything will feel better later on. So, you know, that's the... I'm wanting to do something like that. What I've always wanted to do is just cover everything. What I mean is, for instance, the finger pattern. If you do 01, 01, 02, 03, 04, 1, 01, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 02, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 03, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 04, 1, 4, and then do it backwards. So, so I have just played every single possible combination from one note, one finger to another, unless I put in extensions. So then I think, well, if I can work those in some way, it'll affect everything everywhere. So what is this question? How to use your books to ensure the student can have progress consistently? I don't know. You just got to take whatever is going to move you fastest in the direction of playing in tune and with ease. But I find that question so hard to answer. I like things that cover everything. So, for instance, when I was studying in America, I freaked out about intonation and decided I couldn't play in tune. It was Dorothy DeLay's fault, because she told me to go off. I was playing basically 9 out of 10 in tune, or 9.5 out of 10. I was playing in tune. I was pretty good. You should hear me. Recordings of me before I went to America, I was pretty good. But she told me to go off and find an in-tune grand piano and play a note, dunk, and then play violin note, same note, then piano note again, then violin. Now next note, piano, violin. So I came back the next week and now I was playing 5 out of 10 in tune. It just completely wrecked my intonation doing that.
Isn't that like just intonation?
Yeah.
Equal temperament, is it?
Tempered intonation.
Yeah.
And she said, first get that right, and then if you want the sharps sharper, make them a little sharper and make the flats a little flatter. Well, so next thing I knew, it just freaked me out, and now I couldn't play anything in tune. So then I thought, okay, I've got to fix this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to sort this out. So I thought, well, I'm going to take like tone, semitone. And I'm just going to get it in tune. All the way up the string, each string. And then, like semitone, tone. All the way up the string, all 4 strings. And then tone, semitone, tone. And I even did all the way up the string, all 4 strings. Because then I thought, if I do this, it means that there is no group of notes in any piece or orchestral piece or string quartet that I haven't already practiced and got good, you see. So it's like the ultimate time management. I'm going to spend time on this to save so much time later on, you know. Yeah. But the trouble is there's so much stuff like this in my books. I'm still trying to answer this question from Asman A. And I think to try and study from the books is the wrong way around. It's like, what's the result I want? And now how can I get some help with this. Let's see what it says in here. Let's see what it says in here. Oh, I'll do this. Oh, I'll do that. But it's like you start from here, not start from I don't know. I find it really hard. It's all about organization of materials. When it comes to teaching young toddlers and children from the initial stage, would you enforce a solid overall technique mastery in a short period of time, or overlook certain things and make gradual corrections eventually? Oh boy, what a fantastic question. Look, I can answer it really simply. A year or two ago, I was phoned up. A teacher wanted to come to me with an 8-year-old girl, his pupil, and the father, and come to me once every 3 months, and I will teach this girl, and then 3 months later teach again. So I said, sure, okay. So the teacher comes along with this 8-year-old girl, and she was a very small little 8-year-old girl. So the father is sitting here, the teacher is sitting there, I'm sitting here, and there's this little 8-year-old girl. And before she starts, the teacher said, I just want to tell you what I've been doing with her. We've been working on the basics book. And we've been working on finger action, we've been working on shifting, we've been working on this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that. And he didn't stop talking for about 5 whole minutes, telling me all the technique that he was teaching this 8-year-old from the basics book. And when he finished, I looked at him and I said, well, I feel so sorry. I said, what did I say? I said, if you weren't teaching her any of those things, I'd be very, very upset. But the fact that you are teaching her all these things makes me even more upset. It's just a terrible thing to do to a child, to force these things on them. You know, that Russian teacher I told you about, when she first saw my basics book, and then later on she saw practice, and later on she saw violin lesson, and later on she saw scales. Every time she looked at me and she said, this book only for teacher. Student must just play. The point is the teacher must know all this stuff. Not the 8-year-old girl. The 8-year-old girl, there's a way of doing it where you teach them without them even knowing that they're being taught. You can't inflict this intellectual thing onto children, I don't think. What does he say? Would you enforce a solid overall technique mastery in a short period of time or overlook certain things? Oh boy, it is so hard. Dorothy DeLay would tell you, you only work on the single most important thing to fix next, and you ignore all the rest of it. I told you at the beginning of this that she said you must not teach too much and give the student too much to think about. That's why I said I had to beg the information out of her, because she didn't want to tell me. And she explained to me, she said, look, you've got to get the single most important thing fixed first. And then when that's fixed, the thing that was the second most important now is the first most important. Do you understand? She said the first thing is the teacher must understand all the things the student must do, must change. And you've got to put all those things in order of importance. This is the most important thing to change right now. This is the second most important thing to change right now. This is the third most important thing. Because of course, if you work on steps 10, 11, and 12, they may make some progress, but not the fast progress as if you work on steps 1, 2, and 3. So she would say, look, we'll just do this now. Steps should tell you something about the left hand, something about the bow, and that would be it. She would refuse to tell you more.
I see.
And then when you fix those things, now the next things are now the most important, you see. Personally, I can't teach like that. I mean, I hope I always work on the most important things, but most my students are not children. My students these days are 16 years old and higher. And I just tell them everything all at once. But it's all from the same, it's all about pitch, sound, rhythm, ease. So it's, but I cannot teach like Dorothy DeLay. She frustrated the heck out of me. I would ask her 50 questions every lesson. 50 questions a lesson because she wouldn't tell me anything. But then she would answer. We've got to wrap it up. Ling, your father's. One thing I once said to Mr. Lay, please tell me something about the bow, because she wasn't telling me anything. So she said, all right, sweetie, you've got to be careful on the 7th, on the 5th and the 7th and the 11th notes, or whatever it was, for the anti-clockwise string crossing. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 4 and 6, whatever the notes were on the anti-clockwise string crossing. So she was saying nothing at all. She only told me something here or something about the. So then I say to her, please, Mr. Lay, will you tell me something about the bow? And she says, oh, okay. All right. Well, on the 5th and the 7th and the 13th notes, be careful with the anti-clockwise string crossing. So it's like she knew, but she wasn't saying. I have to say, it's a problem I've got. I say to my students, I'm a terrible teacher because I give you too much to think about all at the same time. I'm a terrible teacher. I'm sorry, but I can't change. This is how I do it. I give you too much to think about all at the same time. But, it's not really true that I give them too much, because I'm very, very careful and very clever. And all my students do is improve very quickly, because improvement, all that anyone wants to do is improve. And the word improve is a fancy word that means change for the better. How can you change if you carry on doing what you're doing in the same way? So what I show my students is how to change the way they play. And that's why they improve so quickly. I'm sorry, we've gone on so late. I do apologize.
Sorry, everyone. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So on behalf of JPO, we would like to thank you for dedicating your time and energy into this interview despite of the pandemic that is happening right now. Yes. We would like to thank everyone who has attended and supported this program. You guys have been great. I hope you guys got the answers you wanted. For those who are still waiting for answers, please stay as Simon Fischer will answer in text through the Q&A section below. So please stay, okay? If you're still waiting for your questions to be answered. Okay, so this broadcast will be on every Wednesday and Sunday night at the same time until further notice. So now I will end with prayer. Please pray in whatever faith you believe in for the COVID-19. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come together, continue running this program at a moment like this. I want to pray for the nurses and doctors from around the world who has been constantly treating patients with COVID-19, and I hope people who diagnosed with COVID-19 will get better soon. Lastly, I pray for our safety and health, and may in the future there be peace within. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Fischer. We are very happy and honored to have you as our guest.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure and honor to be invited. Thank you.